Okay, hello everyone. Good evening, Trust and Money TV. My name's Trust, and today we have a guest. We have Fernie here with us today. Lyn has a topic that I think you're going to love. I am looking forward to it, and so I'm not going to talk very much. I'm just going to let us jump straight in. So, hi Lyn, welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Trust, and thanks for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Oh, good. Me too. Okay, so should we jump straight in then, Lyn? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Yeah, so gosh, how long have you got? It's one of those, it could be a long story. So right now, I do a lot of work with women and hormones, but it hasn't always been like this. So I come from a corporate background. And I spent 25 years building my career in engineering companies, oil and gas companies, mining, and I've always been in senior leadership positions. So, I've been vice president of a global consultancy. I was a managing director of a $10 million business. I've done multiple turnarounds, projects. So I've been one of those women who, through the years, I really worked hard, and I mean hard, to climb the corporate ladder. And I did all the things that we women do. I balanced my life, balanced the family life. I traveled internationally. I used to travel long haul every second week, spent anywhere up to 80% of my time away from home, ran big teams, and just put my heart and soul into my corporate job. And so on the face of it, I had this amazing career, senior positions, well paid, lots and lots of responsibility, but it took its toll on me in a big way. So I guess, that's probably a really good place to talk about me on a personal level, because that was the mask that I wore every day. And I loved my job. Don't get me wrong. I loved working with my team. I had fabulous teams. But what was happening over the years was that right from being quite young, I had battled with basically disordered eating. So not only did I push myself, at school and at university and then in corporate life, but I pushed myself to do competitive sports. I was a gymnast, I was an athlete, and I really pushed myself to have a certain body image as well. And that led to, from being age 16, I had disordered eating, I had real issues with how I looked, and I ended up with binge eating disorder, sugar addiction, things that I see a lot of women struggling with today. And that went on for around 25 years in total, where I had this, this double life. So I would go to I'd go to work and I'd be there as the senior leader, and I had an image and I had a certain face that I had to keep up. And so I ate healthy and I exercised and I worked out and I did all the right things. But behind the scenes, I had these challenges. I also used to over-exercise. I was a competitive athlete. I would do triathlons and marathons and CrossFit. The harder the exercise, the more I wanted it. And when I look over the years, by the time I hit about 37, it was all taking a huge toll. I had a long-term eating disorder. I was a sugar addict. On the surface, I followed all of the conventional diets. I ate low fat. I did all this crazy exercise. I had this super demanding job, had a really demanding life, had all of this long haul travel. And around about age 37, I literally hit a wall. I didn't see it coming, but it hit me, or I hit the wall. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I used to struggle to get out of bed on a morning, which wasn't helped by the fact that I probably had 3 to 4 hours sleep a night. And I know there's lots of your listeners and viewers out there who will identify with that. I used to push myself so hard. And so I ended up with no energy, chronic fatigue, I was struggling with a foggy brain to the point where I could hardly do my job. You know, you put a spreadsheet in front of me and I would, you know, I love numbers, but whoa, did I struggle with spreadsheets and numbers. I would be like this amazingly productive person for 2 weeks a month. And then 2 weeks a month, I was, you know, I was the complete opposite. I was a disaster. I was irritable. I was moody. I would struggle. I would snap at anybody that came near me. I was antisocial. I just didn't want to be around people. And so there was this real Jekyll and Hyde personality. And then my health started to suffer, started to get gut problems, bloating, digestion problems. I was struggling with night sweats and hot flashes. I started to get autoimmune conditions. You name it, I had it at that point.
The body was really fighting you then.
Absolutely, everything, you know, and at the time I couldn't understand what was going on. I visited specialists. First of all, I was in the UK, and then I was living in the Netherlands, and I visited specialists in both countries. And then I moved to Australia, visited specialists there, and nobody knew what was going wrong. They said to me, well, you're going through an early menopause, or you've got autoimmune conditions, you've got celiac. And all of these things were coming at me, and I just didn't understand it. And I got to the point where, you know, to be honest, I was anxious, I was depressed. I didn't want to continue. And I remember this one day driving home from work and really thinking to myself, what is this all about? I was probably in my early 40s by then, been struggling with it for a few years. And I just thought, I don't want to live like this anymore. And in the end, I had to quit my corporate job because I just couldn't function. And so I quit the corporate job, but I was determined not to give up, you know, and I'm one of those people really determined. And I decided from that moment, now I'm going to figure out what's going on here. And so I spent literally months and years researching and figuring out what was wrong with my body and looking for a fix. I was always looking for like a magic pill, you know, something that could cure me. And to cut a very long story short, I eventually got to the point where I realized there was no magic pill, because what I'd done was through the eating, so the way that I ate, the low-fat diet, through the binge eating, so all the sugar, through the over-exercising, through the high stress of my job, I basically put so much stress on my body that it couldn't cope anymore, and my hormones were completely out of balance. And so I ended up, through all my research, I put together a 5-step program. And over a long period of time, and it took a lot of time, I basically fixed my body piece by piece by piece, and got to the point where I can honestly say, I can put my hand on my heart and say that today I'm 49, and I'm probably in the best shape I've been in for 20 years. I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm fitter than I've ever been. I love life. I love food. I've completely got rid of my sugar addiction and binge eating problems. And basically, I've found my life's purpose, because I've realized that I was put here on this planet to help women with the struggles that I've had. And so I now dedicate my life entirely to helping women to balance their hormones and get their mind, their life, and their body back. So that's me.
Wow, Lyn. You tell that so well and paint such a picture. Thank you for sharing that. And I think there are probably a lot of that a lot of us will relate to. The working hard, the striving, the pushing yourself, and well, the honesty from you as well, you know, recognizing that and taking the steps that you needed to take. I just want to recognize that and celebrate you for that. So no, thank you for sharing that. So, oh gosh, where do I go from that? So what would you say was the switch for you then, that moment when you decided, right, everything has to start again? What did it take for that to happen for you, would you say?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you know, what it took for me was that particular trip home. I was driving home, I was in my car, remember it well, it was a winter evening, it was dark. And I was driving along and I got to this roundabout and I distinctly remember thinking to myself, I just don't want to continue. I want this to end. And, you know, I'm a really positive, happy, optimistic person by nature. And yet I was actually in that second contemplating, could I drive my car off the road and just end it all now? And I wouldn't say I'm a suicidal person. That's not it. But just in that split second, I thought, I can't do this anymore. And, you know, I went home. Luckily, I didn't take any action. And I got home. And that was the defining moment where I was really, you know, at a crossroads. I could go one way and just keep on suffering. Or I could say, no, Lyn, you're stronger than this. You're better than this. I can go this way and I can find a solution. And I believe there's always a solution. You know, the universe will help to guide us. And so I really just, you know, that night I put it out to the universe. I said, I need some help here. I really want my life to improve and I need to understand why. And over the next few days, it was really interesting. I found some fascinating research papers and there were two things that they told me. The first one was that women need to eat, move and sleep differently to men. And I've been eating, sleeping and moving like a man, okay? And the reason for the difference is because men have a 24-hour cycle, and so not being negative towards men, but men have got a really simple 24-hour cycle that they just rinse and repeat every day. But the other piece of information that I found was that we as women have these amazing bodies and amazing hormones that are like an orchestra. And all of the instruments have to play together to make a beautiful tune. And they only play together really in harmony when we balance them by doing the right things for the hormones at each phase of the month. And we've got 4 phases. And when I started to look at that, and I went a lot deeper, I went right down the rabbit hole, but when I started to look at it, I realized that I didn't do anything different any day of the week, let alone the month. And I didn't do anything to balance my hormones. And so as I started to research and read, I got really excited because what I could see is that all of the research, the diet advice, the exercise advice, it's all based on men. And it's easy for them because their hormones don't fluctuate except in a 24-hour cycle. And we as women are so different. And that was the start of my journey to health, to wellness, and basically to supercharge my life. And I think that was the defining moment.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. And it actually takes my mind back to a video I made just recently, and it's spooky that we're talking about this because it just felt right to share something about, you know, what happens at that moment where you get to a point like that. And I just want to highlight for someone the relationship there, that moment where people feel like things are not going to get better. I mean, I'm not saying that's where you necessarily were, but that moment where you give up hope. And my point was, there is somebody who is going to be impacted by you not being here. There is something that you know, or you're going to go on to know, that's going to be exactly what someone else needs. Just like you've done now, you have gone ahead to take that information, your research, your story, and put together something else that I'm sure has already helped a lot of people. So if anyone's there right now, I just want to touch on that. It's do it, even if not for yourself, but for the people who are going to be deprived of what you're going to contribute by you being here. And, you know, Lyn, I'm glad you're here. So, okay, your 5-step program. Talk me through how you use that to help them. Someone comes to you to work with you. How do you help them? What do you take them through?
Yeah, so first of all, that I think even before I talk about the 5-step program, I just want to say one thing, if I could, and that is that
of course.
these sort of problems are the sort of things that are not talked about. And so one of the things that I realized when I started to share my story and some of my challenges is that women started coming up from all over the place saying, wow, that happens to me, and I didn't think anybody else suffered like that. You know, I've got all of these symptoms and I didn't know what it was. I am struggling, but I can't get any help. I've been to my GP and my GP isn't able to shed any light on this. And, you know, there are women everywhere, but it seems to be really taboo to talk about it. Sugar addiction is not talked about. Eating disorders in women in midlife is not talked about.
No, you're right.
It's not, you know. Hormone imbalance, it's all sort of a little bit like we're embarrassed, or there's a stigma, or, you know, there's a real feeling that we shouldn't talk about this. So
we're all trying to look like something else, aren't we? You know, what we think we should present as. Yeah,
that's exactly right. I think we're all trying to be somebody. We've all got a little bit of FOMO, and social media does drive a lot of it because we see everyone with perfect lives. But the second that I put my hand up and said, you know, I looked like this really super successful person, and I was, but there was something going on inside of me which was, you know, really significant. Then I've had thousands of women say the same thing, and so that's really why I went into this as a full-time career, and I completely pivoted my life because there's so many people struggling. So if you are struggling with this, don't stay silent. There is help out there. You're not alone. And actually, more than 60% of women suffer with hormonal challenges at any one time, and about 90% suffer with hormonal challenges at some point in their life, whether it's fertility, PMS, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, or even postmenopause. So it's really, really common, and much more common than you think. So if somebody comes to me and either I'm working with them one-on-one or they're working through my program, then the first place we start is we just understand what all of their symptoms are. So, you know, do they have PMS? Do they have uncomfortable periods? Do they have that foggy brain for 2 weeks a month? What is it? And many symptoms people don't connect to hormone imbalances. I'll give you a few examples, like tingling teeth can be a hormone imbalance. It's a crazy one. You know, acne can be a hormone imbalance. Just having a little bit of insomnia can be a hormone imbalance. Weight gain, bloating, digestion issues, they can all be hormone imbalances. They might be something else, but they're often hormone imbalances. So we find those first. And then we look at what that person is doing. How do they eat? How do they move? How do they sleep? How do they manage their stress and the stress on their body? And what do they do to make sure that they're detoxing their body? And I don't mean crazy juice fasts or lots of supplements. Everything I do is completely supplement free. And so we start there, and then my program basically works through these 5 elements. The first one is, how do you eat to balance your hormones? And that's the big one that's a game changer. So how do you eat to make sure your blood sugar is in control, but you're giving your body the fats and the protein and the healthy carbohydrate to fuel it, and you're giving your body specific foods at the right phase of your cycle. So that's the first one. And that one, just often doing that one step, so cutting out sugar. So first thing I say is you always got to cut out sugar. Sorry, I know it's really delicious.
Not all of it, just the processed one. Are we having the sugar that's in something like fruit or potatoes, something like that?
Yeah, so the thing that I say to people, if you're going to do one thing for your health, cut out all of the refined sugars.
Okay.
So take away the sugar, the sweeteners, even the honey, the molasses, the agave, all of those really, really sweet things. But I don't cut out all of the other things. So I take away the refined sugar, and I take away the refined carbohydrate, because those in the body really just act so quickly on the blood sugar, and that's not good for us as women. So there's still a place, I believe, for a little bit of fruit, not too much. And I think there's a place for things like sweet potato, squash, those healthy, lower glycemic index food. So we take the refined sugar away. We have some really good quality proteins. We have some really good quality fats, and we take away some of the unhealthy fats, things like canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, those industrial seed oils that are very processed. And then we phase our eating through the month. So we eat according to the phase of our cycle that we're in. And when we do that, often women start losing weight, their foggy brain goes away, their symptoms start to resolve just by doing that. So that's the big one. The next one is the movement. So again, a lot of hard exercise just stresses our body. And you can imagine when you're busy and you're stressed at work, and maybe you've got kids as well, and you're juggling all those sporting activities and all the things that you've got to do for your family. And then you add in some really hard exercise like HIIT exercise or CrossFit or marathons. Over time, and it's okay short term, but over time they start to take a toll. So we look at each phase of our cycle, what amount of stress can the body handle? And again, what we find is that if we match our exercise to the week of the month that we're in, then our body feels a lot happier, and the hormone balance, which is really delicate, the hormone balance is maintained. So that's the movement part. And then the third part is, how do we sleep? Do we go to bed at a regular time? Do we get up at a regular time? And we look at the whole, have we got good sleep hygiene? So there are lots and lots of tips and hacks that we can do to improve sleep, to make sure we get a good amount of sleep. Because, when I started my career, there was a real badge of honor to say, well, I can function on 3 hours a night. And that was in the days of Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, she was famous for that.
Famous for it, but she didn't have a good ending, right? So she was famous because she was a really strong lady, but she suffered in the end. So it takes its toll. Things like dementia, they are exacerbated when we don't sleep. Things like weight loss, we don't lose weight if we're not sleeping well. So sleep really enhance our hormones and our health. So I really look at sleep.
That one hits home for me, sleep.
I think, there's a lot of us professional women who, we are so busy, our minds are racing, our minds are full, we're creative, we are analytical, and we spend our day, thinking about amazing plans, doing a lot of, fundamental work.
Solving problems.
Solving problems, dealing with crises. And then we go to bed, and it's hard to just switch off like that.
Yeah, that's me.
And we're workaholics. I was a workaholic. So I literally would go to bed at 2 o'clock, because I would say the hours between 10 and 1 were my most productive. But it was killing me. And so I would go to bed at a crazy time and get up at a crazy time. And like Margaret Thatcher, I would say, but I'm fine. But I didn't realize that, the decisions I was making, not just in my life, but at work, they weren't very good decisions. I was a lot more productive once I started to sleep more. But if there's one thing that still challenges me, it's sleep. Because I don't easily finish work. I'm a workaholic still. I don't like putting the computer down, and I don't like putting my device down. I spend, my whole day on my devices. I have lots of them around me. And so to put it down at night, wow, that is my biggest challenge still, even though I know the benefit. It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, okay.
Sleep is a huge one. And then, the next one is stress management. And I don't mean managing day-to-day stress, at work. We all know about stress. We all know what demands are placed on us. But I'm talking about things like metabolic stress. So again, the foods that we eat. How much do we fast? I see so many women now are fasting every day. They're doing 2 days fasting and then having a meal. And again, they're putting another level of stress on their body. So you think about, not sleeping, not eating well, fasting too much, exercising too much, that's all putting stress on the body. And if you then have emotional stress, or if you have, stress at work and demands on your time and deadlines to meet, it's like layers of an onion, but they build up. There's too many of them, and eventually we just can't cope. So it's all around, how do we peel back some of those layers so that we can cope with stress and we don't have cortisol problems? Because cortisol problems, again,
you don't want that.
No. They do. Yeah, it's really, really a big impact. So stress is a huge one. And then the last one is detox, because one of the things that happens with women's hormones is we've got the hormones that we need. And then when our body's used up the hormones that it needs, like estrogen, it splits into waste products. And those waste products need to be taken out of the body. And if we don't take them out, they recirculate. And again, we get hormone imbalance. We get problems like PCOS, estrogen dominance, and we start to see symptoms. So what we've got to do is make sure that our body, its detox pathways are all clear. And that's really, really simple to say, but difficult to do. So we need our gut to be functioning well. So it means that we need to have really good gut integrity.
Yeah.
We need our liver to function really well so that it can detox those metabolites. And then we need our bowels to work well so that they can eliminate them, and also kidneys and bladder. So we've got to make sure that all of the detox pathways, including our skin, are clear and we can get rid of all of the waste products. So those are the 5 steps that we look at. Like I said, the first one, the eating for your hormones, is often enough to change the game for people.
Yeah.
When you go through all 5 and put that together, then you can really have your body working at its absolute peak and, just supercharge every single day.
Wow. It sounds like a real holistic, take everything from top to bottom, relearn behaviors, form new habits that are helpful. It sounds really complete, and there's so many things that you could pick up on there. I mean, I have admitted sleep is this one that I have an issue with, and a lot of this is not stuff that you can learn easily. Like, no one's really out there making that public. It's like when you said the textbooks and things, they are written with men in mind. Like, the balance of information is not out there. So I'm glad you're out there doing this and giving us that information that isn't readily available.
And it isn't, because, when you look, here's a really interesting statistic. 95% of all research projects on food, fasting, and exercise are done on men. The reason for that, again, is because men have got this simple 24-hour cycle and they don't have hormones that fluctuate. So for a long time, women were actually excluded from research projects. So the thalidomide study in the 70s went horribly wrong. And so women were excluded completely. And then even when they were included, it was postmenopausal women. And then eventually it was women just in the beginning of their cycle when their hormones are low. And so all this work has been done to study diets like the ketogenic diet on men, to study fasting on men, to study exercise on men. So when you go and look, and if I Google ketogenic diet, I'll get probably 41 million, hits. They're all about men, but you don't see that because you have to look really deep in the research to find it. And that means that we as women, we're going out looking for answers, and the answers that we're finding, we don't realize they're not actually suited for us. And so that's why, I've chosen to work in this area and to start speaking more about this, and also to start addressing a lot of those limiting beliefs that people have, like fat is bad for us. We have to exercise a lot to be fit. I really want to break down some of those myths and start to build up, a new paradigm.
Fascinating. Yeah. Wow. Okay. No, it completely makes sense. I mean, I have some knowledge of the clinical trials industry, and usually they are monitoring their pregnancy status at every point. And the minute there's anything, they are, made to leave it, of course, for their safety purposes. But what that ends up being, you have an unequal representation. So yeah, it completely makes sense. That sounds really complete. And gosh, I wish we all learned this. I wish it was more readily available to us, and just how much of a difference, just knowing what your strength is and playing into that, rather than being in a game that, I don't want to say rigged, but it's just not the right one for you.
Yeah, I think you just said it, Trust. I think, what you hit the nail on the head there. It's all about playing to your strength. And we as women, we have some major advantages. We have some major strengths. We're all different. We're all unique. But when you play to your strength, and you know when you're most productive, when you're most, the most creative, when you play to those strengths, then you can do amazing things as a woman. And when you don't play to your strengths, then life gets real hard. So I wish this was cool. Yeah, if kids would taught this, in school, then we would all be in a better position. But hey, times are changing.
Yes.
The information is available, and I'm on a mission to reach 1 million people with this.
Amazing. I'm sure you will. Lyn. So someone who they're not quite coming there yet, they're just listening right now, what is one thing, or it could be more than one thing, that they can do today to make a difference, to start the change going?
If I was going to do one thing, so if you're listening to this right now, I would simply start by cutting out sugar and refined carbohydrates if you haven't already. Because I think that is one of the biggest things you can do for your health. And if you only do that one simple thing, and I'm not saying it's easy, because it's really quite difficult, but if you can do that one thing, then you will have reduced your risk of cardiovascular disease, you'll have reduced your risk of metabolic disease and type 2 diabetes, and you will have reduced your risk of cancer. So if you can do one thing for your health and for your hormones, that would be it.
Great. It's those processed carbs. I mean, the research is out there, the evidence is out there. So, but yes, it's an addiction. I like how you put it. It is, and that's why it's difficult to do. But I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, so where can people find you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Best way to find me is on Facebook. I am on Instagram as well, but Facebook I'm at lyn.fernie, so lyn.fernie. And the other thing is to come and check out my group. So if you'd like to get started and you want to know more about how to balance your hormones, my Facebook group is called Eat for Your Hormones, Eat for Your Hormones. And it's completely free.
I'm coming in.
Come in there. Come and join. We've got a gorgeous community of women of all ages, from 25 to about 75, and lots of lively discussion. And in that group, you'll find free eating plans that you can download and just get started.
Fantastic. Eat for Your Hormones, and find you at lyn.fernie on Facebook. Fantastic. I will put the links to that when I upload this and share it with the community. Are you happy for them to reach out to you with questions as well?
Absolutely. So any questions, more than welcome. So you can message me, you can email me, you can post a question in my group. Lots and lots of ways to find me. But if you go to the Facebook page, all of my contact details are there, and I'm more than happy to answer individual questions anytime.
Thank you, Lyn. Much appreciated. So that was the end of my questions. Did you have any sort of final words to say? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I want to repeat one thing. If you're struggling, anybody out there who is starting to suffer any signs of hormone imbalance at all whatsoever, don't suffer in silence. There is help out there, and you'll probably find that there are lots of people around you who've got the same problems. They're just not willing to talk about it. So don't stay silent. Put your hand up, get some help, and we can balance hormones easier than we think, and life changes dramatically. So have hope. You can completely turn it around and feel amazing every single day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lyn. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There you have it. There you have it. I mean, what's not to go for? Natural strategies, living in a way that's best aligned with us, and from someone who has actually been through that. Your story of transformation is inspiring, and what I would take from that is, if someone else has done it, so can I. A lot of you here are professional women managing jobs, kids, and all of that. That's where Lyns come from, and this is the transformation. So yeah, definitely reach out to her, and I am going in that group, like I said. And no, thank you so much, Lyn. Thanks for coming on and for sharing that.
You're very, very welcome, and like I said, happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Well, I will let you go. Thanks, Lyn. Thanks for coming on again.
Bye.
Bye.